All right. I've got something really special for you guys because I'm combining an episode that we're going to talk about. Well, traditionally, you say mobile home parks. I'm from Louisiana. We call them trailer parks. Then we're going to talk about what is a mobile home park operator with a poker background that this has a very strong mindset. How does all this come together? So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I've got Mr. Pasha. Pasha, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm excited to be on here. I am amped up.
And even though you're in California, we do have a connection. We
Yeah.
both love crawfish. So
Which
we'll,
is crazy for
which
someone
is
out in LA, but I do have my own crawfish station. I even built my house so that the line can go straight into the sewer from my crawfish station. That's how much I love it so much.
now when you say LA, that's Los Angeles, not
That's
Louisiana.
Los Angeles. That's not
Okay.
Louisiana.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to get right into it because, I love mobile home parks. You're doing great with them with Ed Evoke Capital. But you have a really interesting story regarding your poker background. So tell us a little bit about that before we get into the other things.
Okay, sure. Um, College wasn't for me. I knew that very early on. School was very difficult for me. Very quick learner, but I just really couldn't sit still. Kind of like your natural typical prototype of ADD or ADHD or whatever. Very quickly after I dropped out of college, my brother ended up winning a big poker tournament. This was back in 2004. So he won 1.4 million right when as the poker boom started happening, right? And I was like, well, crap, if he could do it, I mean, it's my brother. Trust me, I could do it. And I started playing poker. I started playing poker with my friends, and I picked it up really quickly. I picked up I love games in general. I love game theory. I love trying to outwit my opponents, right? So it really kind of played into my strengths. And as a kid, being 18, 19, up into like I started really playing a lot more when I was 20 to 26. I started making better money than most college graduates that have been seasoned for 20 years, right? And I was able to travel the world and do whatever the hell I wanted, which was a great life. So I I I was able to do that, but right around that 26-year-old mark, I started to really realize that this is not the lifestyle that I wanted. And as much as I made good money, this is not how I wanted to live. And so I always knew that real estate was my end game. And I made a really difficult decision. I'll admit it turned out really well to take a step back from poker and then get into the real world. And I started to buy property sight unseen at the auctions in Vegas in 2011. And I remember my first deal, I made $3,000, right? And typically I would make bluffs for more than that, like quite frequently. But I still made money. I still netted $3,000. That was before tax, by the way, which is a lesson learned in the year preceding that as well of the capital gains. But I got the bug, and that was it. This was it. And so I really kind of took that poker mindset. I really took about how you look at uh, the game of poker and really translated that into real estate and now real estate business with mobile home parks specifically.
Now
So
you glanced over that really quick. So there's a little
I
gap
did.
there. You went from I'm playing poker, I'm 26, but I knew that real estate was the end game. How help me connect that gap? How did you know it was the end game? Because if I'm a physician, a dentist, I'm an attorney that's practicing right now, making good money,
Mm-hmm.
then they go, real estate's my end game. How did that happen?
I think when I was really young, it really affected me. My father essentially migrated me and my brother himself out here to, well, really Northern California in San Jose. But he always talked about real estate, right? He just always talked about real estate, how he wish he bought this property, wish he bought that property. Really, and I knew he always wanted to get into real estate. So I really believe because of the sacrifices he made, I took on his dream. Still, whenever I close a deal or I, close my fund and I tell him what we're doing, he's the first person I call still. So I always loved the idea of an asset building much building money for me. And so I didn't really find anything else when I was younger that really attracted me. It was always real estate. If you see me still in a car now and I'm in the passenger seat, I'm only just looking at all the houses. It's just a passion of mine. I love it. I love real estate. I always have loved real estate. And so poker there was always like, hey, when I make that $1 million, I'm going to go take all that money and put into real estate. When I win this tournament, even though I actually never really played tournaments because I hated them, I'm going to go put it into real estate. And so I really decided, because I had played enough poker, I really realized with my lifestyle, it's not conducive to me getting into real estate. So I had to make that hard decision of taking 2 steps back, start on the ground floor, start learning about real estate, not earning as much. So that way I could really kind of build the dream life that I have now.
Now, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I was telling you how I've spoken to a lot of the doctors, dentists about real estate, and they come to me about like
Mm-hmm.
syndications. They want to learn about syndications, but they never do anything. And then they'll come to me a year later. Hey, Jeff, I have more questions. Kind of
Yeah.
like if a patient came to me and they wanted dental implants, I tell them all about it, but they never schedule. But they came to me for implants. I realized something was missing.
Yeah.
And what I realized that was missing was I was assuming, what happens when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. But I was assuming they thought they had the same type of mindset. They thought the same way that I do about money and had the same actions, habits, just was because they were thinking outside the box. They were like, hey, I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor. I want to think about doing kind of like you're a poker player. I want to think about doing something else, but yet they never move forward with it. So based on that, and I realized it was how they think and the mindset. How important is mindset when it comes to money and success, and why?
I mean, the layup answer for everybody should be it's everything. Okay. Case in point, I mean, all the information's out there, and anyone who's listening to this podcast can devour information. We can understand it. All the teaching tools are online now. You can literally go and learn and get a PhD on how to do real estate investing and vetting operators and vetting syndicators, all online. But it's about the passion to do it, the seeking of the knowledge. And then the most important thing is understanding that you have to be in the game to play the game. And so that's the biggest part of making that jump from that fear-based decision to understanding that you have to go and make a decision and do it, and then that you're going to learn from it. And so that I really was able to get that from poker. I mean, if you, let's say if anyone who's listening to this plays a poker tournament, if if you just sit there and never play a hand, you're going to get blinded off, right? You're just going to lose the game with time. And that's what happens really with money, because of inflation, because of the way our economy is set up, and almost all of these central banks are set up and all across the world. We have to keep printing more money, right? And so with that, there's naturally going to be inflation. So with that, really the natural course is that you have to get your hands on good assets that are going to be able to beat inflation, and it's going to be able to grow your money and equity. So you just got to be in the game to win. So it's all mindset of making that decision and saying, hey, like I might not knock it out of the park this first time, but if I continuously learn every single time, it's going to compound on itself and it's going to get better. No one's an expert on anything until you start really practicing and you start putting your effort into it. And for where I was 12 years ago, who didn't know anything about real estate, to what I know now, it's only because I've put myself in situations for me to learn. And it's all been mindset and experience.
Okay, so if I'm a doctor, I make good money, I want to, and all the resources are here on a cell phone or on a computer, free, like you said, and I know that I need to look at doing something like this for passive income for whatever reason, and I'm watching podcasts, YouTube videos, I'm reading books, I'm calling people like you, I'm calling people like me.
Mm.
Then what is it that person that goes through all that and will spend all that time, why do you think that person will not pull the trigger and take the first step and then just keep Learning and learning. What is it?
Yeah. So this is actually a really good question. I'm actually writing a book, and this is part of the
Hmm,
book. And it's what it is. It's that most people are. So if you go to play poker, right? Just to go back to it, most people who are playing not to lose, right? They think they're playing to win, but they're not. They're actually going to try to protect their money and protect what they have in front of them, so much so that you're not playing the game optimally.
So that's why
Okay.
they'll fold. They won't go in.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so those people who play are the ones who are going to lose because they're making rash decisions emotionally instead of taking the logical decision and knowing that you have to grow your money given the environment that we are now see ourselves in the US and really kind of really in any country. You have to have your money growing for you or you're going to be losing money. But it's getting over that hurdle uh, to go ahead and put yourself into the game.
If somebody is listening to this or watching this right now and they say, "That's me.
Yeah.
That is me. I'm in that position." Pasha, what are the one, two, three steps that I can take right now to get me to do something, to take action?
Yeah. I think, I'm sure this gets talked at nauseum, but it's really having a very clear vision for what you want to do. So, but let me talk about vision because it gets thrown out a lot.
Hmm.
I've let my life be dictated by my vision, and I get really super clear. I mean, so granular where I'm talking about the smells, I'm talking about the emotions. What are the people around me wearing? I mean, I build this model for what is now I'm striving to be, and I let it pull me. And I let all my decisions get based off of that person 10 years from now, not for the decisions now. So I'm forward thinking in the sense that what is 10 years in the future Pasha going to thank the present Pasha for now? Because I may go off on a little bit of a tangent. Because once you start to identify that time becomes the most important asset and measurement that we can measure anything against, money stops being money and money starts being a tool. And when you are able to adopt that mindset, that money only allows you to buy more time because time is the most precious asset that we have. It really will shift you into being like, oh man, I've got to really make my money start working hard for me so I can buy more time for myself in the future. So I let that vision really dictate and pull me. And then just as the caveat, anybody who ever comes to me, Jeff, and says, hey, I am in this position. I don't know whether we're just going to use money as an example. I don't know whether to invest in this or invest in that, or should I just keep savings in my money? The first thing is always, you don't know what you want 10 years from now. It's very clear to me. It's just you don't. And it's never failed me where I said, you don't know where you want 10 years from now. And no one has ever said, no, I actually do. Never, not once. So once you have that vision, you get to make the decisions from there and you make all of your decisions from there. So if you want to build up a passive income machine, if you are a doctor and you're not doing it, but your 10-year self wants to do it, well, you got to get in there, you got to learn, and you got to start executing on the information that you have and start doing your own due diligence. And so it's really having that vision. And then it's really changing your mindset on time and which in turn change your mindset around money because money will buy more time in the future.
But for somebody out there that's like, okay, this sounds great, but I have no idea how to even create a vision or what, I know I want passive income. I know I want to spend more time with my kids and travel, whatever, but can you give somebody like maybe like a framework to work on to do that, to build out
Sure.
vision?
Okay, so there's a few things here. First is I would argue if anyone knows Tony Robbins, get in a peak state, go. But for me, it's just when you're writing a vision, you're writing something really powerful for yourself. Get yourself in a very confident state. Go lift some weights. Go yell on top of your whatever you got to do. Just do some push-ups or this is for men and women. Do whatever you need to do to feel confident in your body. Because when you're a confident state of mind, you're going to write from a confident place. And what you can accomplish in 10 years is incredible, right? And so go from there and then just let the pen do its work. Don't overthink it. Just start writing. And anything that comes to your mind about that 10-year vision, go and just write it out as in detailed as you can. For me, the more emotionally attached I am to that vision, that's why I attach emotions. That's why I attach feelings and senses and a breeze and smells to it. So it becomes more emotionally anchored into my system. Secondly, if you want, you can go to ChatGPT and write out a template. Give me a template for vivid vision, and it'll give you prompts. If you're a little bit more analytical and you really want to get a little bit more granular on that, just go do that. You'll get prompts of how to do it. And I would say that if you're only writing on each of these prompts, like a few sentences, you got to go deeper and go deeper. Just keep trying to go 5 levels deep into your vivid vision to really get emotionally anchored into that vision, to let it pull you and guide you.
So let's say somebody is 35 years old, they're married, and they have a 10 and a 5-year-old. So you're thinking like, close my eyes and picture my kids are 15 and 20. Picture me being 45. Is that kind of what you're
Yeah.
talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
you're like
And then
looking in the
describe
future.
that. Describe everything in the future. Don't describe, oh, I just want this much money in my bank account and this.
Yeah.
No, screw that. Start lifestyle first, right?
Mhm.
I'm sitting here with my wife drinking a glass of bourbon. My kids just went to college and one of them just came back from volleyball. She smells because of the volleyball, and the crickets are chirping, and you want to get really visceral in your vivid vision, and that's what gets you more emotionally attached to it and to drawn to that vision. If you're just very analytical and you just write out some goals, you're not going to be as emotionally attached to it. You're just not, right? As humans, we only get attached by emotion.
So would you recommend, like, and I was telling you earlier, I had a call today with an endodontist that was trying to decide, should he invest $50,000 in a syndication that we're offering. And it just didn't seem to me like you said, he didn't have clear goals, clear vision. And I told him not to do it until he got that.
Yeah.
So is that what when somebody comes to you and they're just kind of all over the place, are you telling them some type of version of that?
Yeah. So whenever I have investors come, I qualify them, right? Because any investor that I want to join our family of investors, they're long-term investors. My syndications are not for the investors who are just trying to make a quick buck. I mean, we take investor money and we hold on to these properties in perpetuity because we're only attracting that passive income machine to build on top of each other itself, right? So when people come in, I always want to qualify that right up front, because I just want to make sure what people are getting into, and it's an alignment of fit, right? And so we find that a lot of investors like our model, and so we do that. Now, most of my investors are seasoned investors already. They see our product, they like our product. Our product fits better than other products that we deliver. We have lower fees, all of that. So I don't really get too much into the vision, but what I will say is my friends and family who are first investing come to me. I make sure they do that first. I make sure that this is what they want. I make sure that they understand where they're headed, because when you first start coming into money, it's very easy to say, oh, whoa, look, this syndicator is doing this. And look, this operator is doing this, or my neighbor is doing that. And it's easy to be like, oh, here, I have maybe some money, throw it here, but you really got to get clear on what you want, and you want to invest with that as well. Some people want different lifestyles. Some people want higher net worth. Some people want maybe for depreciation. There's a whole different array of buckets on how to invest, and each one is right for your particular situation. So you
Gotcha.
got to get clear.
So what are your thoughts about, I'm going to give you two different scenarios. We've been led to believe, at least I have, or was, that when you go to medical school or dental school or whatever, whatever your job or career is, the goal is to do that for 30 or 40 years. And your goal is to build up the biggest pile of money as possible so that at the end of that 30 or 40 years, you start drawing down on it, that you don't have to worry about that pile running out. And typically the longer we work, the bigger the pile gets. That's what we've been taught. Versus somebody that thinks differently about money, and instead of the goal is to build a big pile of money, the goal would be to build a river or a stream of income coming in every month, thus freeing up time, not so much having to worry about money. So tell me what you think about what we've been taught and that, and kind of what your thoughts are, or if it's something in
Yeah.
between.
Well, no, I think you suggested a very powerful visual there. Imagine a pond that you're building, and your pond being the money and the reserves and the equity that you're building up over the 20, 30 years of you working, right? Or compared to you building a bigger and bigger river that's always going to keep replenishing more and more. What would you rather have? I would have the continuous river getting bigger and bigger, right? Instead of a pond that will dry up at some point, right? And you go through seasons just like our earth is. You go through seasons. Some are drier than others, some there's less rain, more, and you go through seasons, same with that. But with a river, it's continuously flowing to you. And I think that's a really powerful visualization to understand how that really would apply to your life, right? So I took the river route, and I would rather be the guy who's retired and never have to worry, and knowing that everything is going to be growing instead of having to worry about things running out for me. And that's why I've dedicated my life now to that. And that's how I've structured everything in my life.
And I left out probably the most important part of that visualization. The build the bigger pile of money route involves you. You're the only one. Your time, trading time for money, your income is involved with that. You have to treat patients, you have to see clients or customers in order to get that pile of money. Versus what we're talking about is you take your money and put it in assets like mobile home parks or apartments or RV parks or whatever, and then let that money come in. Thus, like you said, the most important thing is time, right? It's replacing your time so you don't have to work as long. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Money is a tool to grow it so I can buy myself more time. That's it. I can spend more time with my family. I can spend more time traveling. And that's how I view money. So I make money so I can make more money, just like a tool.
And I think the biggest hindrance for a lot of people, myself included, we came from a background of, now that I look at it, scarcity, poverty, money is limited. I'm going to go wash my car in the driveway for an hour. I'm going to mow my own yard. We're going to clean our house. We're going to drive 20 minutes away because that gas station, it's 10 cents a gallon cheaper, to all save money, taking the whole time thing out of it. Instead of, I'm going to buy back those 3 or 4 hours I just talked about and pay somebody to mow my yard, wash my car, or clean my house or whatever. And once you start thinking that way, like you said, in terms of time, you're right. Money's just a tool.
Money's just a tool. Money to buy time. I mean, this is the one thing, if I can impress to maybe not just the doctors, but just entrepreneurs in general, and maybe the doctors as well, is I had a very good mentor early on. I remember specifically making fun of him because he had 3 different assistants. And I like ridiculous. What human needs 3 helpers, right? And he just looked at me dead faced and said, "You don't value your time, Pasha." And I had no idea what the hell he meant. I was still young at that time. And now I look at my life, and now I have 3 different helpers in my life personally, and I have 2 executive assistants for me. And it's bought me so much time. What happens is I can think high level, I can increase my business, and more importantly, I can spend more time with my quality time with my family, knowing everything gets done. So really, I really value money as a tool to buy time for myself And I really feel like that is kind of one of my edges that I have, is that I will grow money so that I could buy more time in my life.
Well, I'm glad you said that about hiring executive assistants and that, because so now whenever I reach back out to you for part two of this, we're going to dive into that, how to buy back your time, specific steps. So I definitely want to get into that. But what I want to get into now is what made you, with all the different types of asset classes out there, what made you go mobile home parks over something like maybe because most people think about real estate and they've never done it before. They think, what, single family home? I want to buy a
Of course.
home and rent it out. But you were mobile home park. That's a little bit different and unique. So tell me, why mobile home parks?
Sure. There's a thing in poker called game selection. Okay. It's not about playing, it's about what game you play and who your opponents are. So I will admittedly say that I'm not the best poker in the world. I never cared to be. I never wanted to be. But I was able to get myself into really good games and play with opponents that were just one level underneath me. And so I like unlike my brother is one of the top poker players in the world. He played with the best poker players. But I didn't want to play against stiff competition. I wanted to play against worse poker players and just make money. I didn't really care. I was a grinder. I just wanted to make money. And so you can take this lesson into real estate as well. So just so a little bit of context, I started traditionally. I did start in single family because that's where I got my education. It was the lowest hanging fruit. I jumped into multifamily from apartment complexes. Then I jumped into mobile home parks. And my transition was this. When I was in the apartment complex game, the competition was incredibly stiff. I was a very small pond or very small fish in a big pond. The cap rates compressed. And for what I like, my investment appetite is I'm a cash flow guy. I always have been a cash flow guy. And so in apartment complexes, your cash flow is almost minimal, right? Unless you're doing a big value add. And then about 3 years later, you get about 60-70% of your money back. And then still, again, you're getting cash flows at like 4% just because the cap rates are so compressed. But in mobile home parks, you can buy a mobile home park and get 8 to 10% cash on cash in year one. And the rents are still low, and you're buying from mom and pop sellers. And granted, there's a lot more work that you have to do the parks. You have a little bit more trouble tenants, but it's really not that bad. It's a lot of blue collared workers who are just trying to get by. And fourthly, the best thing about mobile home parks is that there's a stigma around mobile home parks. And when there is a stigma around anything and there's less competition, that means there's a bigger opportunity when you get enough education. So I partnered with two incredible partners who know everything about anything about mobile home parks. I picked their brain. They were my mentors. We're now partners on it. So including the cash on cash that you can get for mobile home parks compared to anything else, it's the highest depreciation that you can get with a cost seg in any other sector of commercial real estate. I don't know about RV parks, so I'm saying that naively. And it is the least transitory of all commercial real estate at all. I mean, really, a cool stat is that 50% of all tenants in mobile home parks have stayed in that same home in that same place for over 14 years. Another thing, the lowest amount of delinquency rates in mortgages for mobile home parks, the lowest amount of delinquency rates in tenants in any other sector of commercial real estate. Couple all of this with what I really love the most is that it is the only asset class in commercial real estate that we are actually losing supply every single year compared to our demand. Our demand is increasing like crazy because there is no other low income solution in America to date, and there is no good solutions on the horizon. So as we know, as we print more money, the middle class is getting squeezed more. So there is more need for lower income. So my demand is increasing by my tenant base, and the supply of mobile home parks is actually decreasing every single year because most counties and cities don't want to build it because of these stigmas and low income properties, according to them. So I'll follow that market trend any day of the week. Those are some of the reasons why I love mobile home parks.
Yeah, to give you a fact, I just hired a new CPA, Hall CPA, the real estate CPA.com, that group.
Hmm.
And they were telling me on a podcast we were doing, mobile home parks and RV parks, and they do this for all their, I mean, they do have tons of clients. They said typically they get anywhere from 50 to 70% of the purchase price year one depreciation,
Yep. I guess
compared to 15 to 18% for apartments. So mobile home
y-
parks and RV parks are
let's
uh,
just talk about last year, because last year in 2022 was 100% bonus depreciation year one. This year it's 80. So I'm just going to talk off the figures from last year because it's easy. I was getting on average 75% of all my parks in year one bonus depreciation from a cost seg, and all my apartment complexes that I had bought years before, I was getting about 30 to 35% every single year, so almost double. And that's because of the way that um, they're logged. So an apartment complex, I believe it's a 29.5 year where your bonus depreciation or the depreciation schedule, and then in mobile home parks, and it sounds like RV parks are the same. It's on a 15-year depreciation schedule.
more, I guess, more land improvements would
Yeah.
be able to. I think it's for the, and I'm not an accountant, but I think it's anything less than 20 years, which the land improvements are typically 15, would be able to do the bonus or accelerated depreciation and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, that's fantastic. So, if people want to learn more about you or your deals or mobile
Mhm.
home parks, how do they reach you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is go to evokecapital.net. There's an investor sign up sheet there. And so what happens there is when you sign up, I'll reach out to you personally. And then anytime we have anything open, I'll shoot you an email, let you know what we have going on. Um,
These are
and
for accredited investors only.
these are only for accredited investors. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And then we could essentially run through our past deals together. I'm going to start hosting free webinars about mobile home parks, what to look for, what not to look for. So just sign up, and I'll get you all the information that you need.
Evokecapital.net. I will
Yep.
make sure I link that
Yeah, that'd be
in the
great.
description below this video. And I look forward to part two, where we're going to talk about the specific ways you, Pasha, buy back your time, because I'm very interested in this process too, with assistance and that sort of thing. So
Sure.
I'm really curious.
Let's do it. I would love to.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks again for your time, folks. Evokecapital.net. Get in touch with Pasha, and we will talk to you guys in part two.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.